Hey, it's Dave Brown here, host of Now with Dave Brown on AMI. Check out this latest highlight from the show. Tomorrow is the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation across Canada. The day remembers survivors of the residential school system, the children who never returned home, their families, and their communities. APTN will be hosting a gathering tomorrow in Ottawa to commemorate the day. Mike Omelus is the Executive Director of Content and Strategy at APTN and joins me now to tell you a little bit more about it. Hey, good morning, Mike. Thank you for making time.
Dave, it is a pleasure to see you in person. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Mike, I want to start with the individual event that is going on tomorrow in Ottawa. What are the plans? What's going to be happening at that commemorative event?
Well, it is the national commemorative event for the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. It is a gathering of survivors, and there will be performances from artists that are themed towards reconciliation. There will be speeches and reflections from residential school survivors. The Governor General, Mary Simon, will be there. The Prime Minister and a number of other VIPs will be there. And it's just basically to remind the country what this day is all about and why it was created as a federal statutory holiday last year on September 30th.
Mike, the reason why I started with that individual event is because that's one that people are going to have access to across the country via APTN. So where can they get access to participate in that event if that's what they choose to do tomorrow?
Well, if they're in the Ottawa area, they're welcome to go to LeBreton Flats Park. We're anticipating 15 to 20,000 people. It begins with a march from Parliament Hill, a spirit walk, a reconciliation walk from Parliament Hill to the LeBreton Flats Park. But most people aren't in Ottawa, and there's a large number of broadcasters, radio, television, print, that will be streaming the broadcast and providing it for viewers, including AMI. And APTN is pleased to partner with AMI on this event. CBC will be there. Adrian Arsenault, I understand, is going to be in the park providing 2 hours of coverage. And we want to make this distributed as widely as possible in hopes of touching people and causing them to reflect on the day and what it's all about.
It's not simply going to be that singular event that APTN is going to be broadcasting, though. There's 35 hours of programming that are going to be on offer. What kind of other stories and other programming are going to be available for people if they want to consume it at home?
Well, we decided to basically start with 35 hours of coverage this evening in prime time. There was just, frankly, too many good programs that were involved with the reconciliation theme. And so we're going right through till 6 a.m. on Saturday morning, the end of the broadcast day, 35 hours of coverage, including the broadcast. There's a Buffy St. Marie concert. It took place at the National Arts Centre in Ottawa on the 16th of September, and we've packaged that with our partners at CBC into a 90-minute special, which is it gives me goosebumps just to think about that. There's a movie that I saw again for the third time on HBO not too long ago, One Day in the Life of Noah Piugtuk, who's an Inuit leader on the ice floe, and he was leading a hunting party, met by an Indian agent who said, "Your community has to move." So there's all sorts of programming that causes hopefully people to reflect on what happened to Indigenous communities through the residential school system that was established by church organizations as well as the government, and the consequences of those decisions and how they've impacted generation upon generation of Indigenous peoples.
Mike, this is the second official day for National Truth and Reconciliation since the federal government declared that the case last year. But you're currently wearing an orange hoodie and an orange shirt. Orange Shirt Day has been around for years. I'm curious about the formalization of the day, what it has meant both last year and this year to have people more formally reflecting on the Indigenous experience and the residential school experience in Canada.
Well, Orange Shirt Day originated in 2013, and it was started by a woman named Phyllis Webstand. And she was a 6-year-old girl when she first entered residential school in Williams Lake, British Columbia. And she, to her first day, wore a bright, brand new orange shirt. And when she arrived at school, she was stripped of the shirt, which is symbolic of the treatment of residential school survivors and what happened in those schools. That happened in 2013. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, in its final report and calls to action in 2015, recommended a federal statutory holiday be created to mark the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And the government got around to proclaiming it last June, and the first day was last September 30th. So this is the second annual National Day for Truth and Reconciliation tomorrow.
What does it mean to communities? Certainly, the reflection is not limited to one day. The experience is captured through generational trauma. But what does it mean to take an individual day to focus that reflection?
Well, certainly Indigenous communities and families have been traumatized, many of them by the residential school system for decades upon decades. So they're fully aware of what transpired. But I think it brings the entire country, into the conversation and causes, hopefully, just some reflection, deepening of understanding, and perhaps more education about the educational system, the residential school system, and there's a quote from the former senator who headed up the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the Honorable Murray Sinclair. He said, "Education got us into this mess, and education will get us out of it." And so that's partly, I think, what the day is about tomorrow, and hopefully people will reflect.
I want to come back to the notion of participation, because certainly there's going to be programming on APTN. As you mentioned, the CBC is going to be picking up that broadcast. AMI-TV is going to have that broadcast as well. But if you were to be sending a message to people who want to participate tomorrow, how would you encourage them to do so? And maybe even more broadly, to be cognizant of the movement of reconciliation and what they should be contemplating and considering as part of their participation?
Well, Dave, there are literally hundreds of events being held tomorrow in communities big and small. There's actually a big event today at Mosaic Stadium in Regina, being put together in part by the Cowessess First Nation. So there are a number of different ways and places and events at which people can participate. But I think it doesn't have to be a formal gathering with others. If people would just reflect on what happened, maybe go to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission website or the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation website. There's a wealth of documents. And just read some of the reports and just help deepen understanding. And it's when we understand what's happened, what's transpired, that can bring people together and further conversation. It's when we don't want to open our eyes and ears and listen that conversation, dialogue just shuts down. So just that would be my wish. And that's what I have been doing and will be doing, just reflecting upon the history. And I think that makes me a little bit more compassionate, open-minded, and hopefully understanding. And I think that should be the goal of listeners if they're able to.
Mike, thank you for taking the time for us today, and thank you to you and your colleagues for all the work that you do. I know you're about to travel, so safe travels, and I hope the ceremony, the commemoration tomorrow, is healing in some way and offers some solace to those who are there. So thank you for making time for us today.
Those are very kind words on which to end this conversation, Dave, and I thank AMI and you for your participation and support as well. Great to be here.
That is Mike Omelus. He is the Executive Director of Content and Strategy at APTN. And be sure to catch APTN's broadcast tomorrow live at Le Breton Flats in Ottawa from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also tune in on AMI-TV at that time, or if you miss it, you can also stream it on APTN's streaming service, Lumi. Do you want to dive into more conversations like this? Watch Now with Dave Brown weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on AMI-TV, or download the podcast wherever you listen. Do you want to dive into more conversations like this? Watch Now with Dave Brown weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on AMI-TV, or download the podcast wherever you listen.